All right. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on this lovely April Fool's Day. For the next 30 minutes or so, we'll be covering the topic how not to be fooled by AI phishing scams. And that is no joke. My name is Elliot Baker. I am the Director of Content Marketing at Hoxhunt, and I will be your host today. With me is James Briscoe. James is a security awareness specialist at Hoxhunt, helping ensure our customers and their employees had the latest and best knowledge on what kind of emerging threats are out there. Thanks for joining us today, James. How are we doing?
I'm well, thanks, Elliot. And it's sunny here, so I'm very happy.
Nothing like sun in Finland. It is a glorious thing. On the agenda today, we will be covering the prevalence of AI in social engineering, real-world examples of AI cyber attacks, tips to spot AI-generated phishing scams, raising employee awareness of AI attacks. And we'll also be covering some breaking news, too, some hot off the presses research that we're very excited to talk about. So let's get right into it. I'm going to share some insights and fresh original research on how prevalent the use of AI actually is to do social engineering attacks. This information comes from Hoxhunt's latest research, the 2025 Phishing Trends Report. Earlier this year, we analyzed the responses of 2.5 million users to over 50 million phishing simulations and millions of more real threats all through 2024. And we summarized the takeaways there in the report. In addition to stats on the prevalence of AI, the report also discusses which types of cyber attacks are surging, what phishing campaigns are working best, and provides training performance benchmarks across industry, location, and more. We'll be following up after the webinar to share a free copy of this comprehensive annual report. With this year's report, we immediately wanted to discuss the elephant in the room: AI-crafted attacks. Phishing is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's driven by an organized service model and very cheap tools that are readily available online. Malicious actors opt for phishing as a service tools that yield the greatest ROI with the lowest risk of getting caught. As such, we expected highly targeted AI-enabled spear phishing attacks to be on the rise. These attacks may, for example, automatically scrape open-source intelligence from the web and incorporate advanced capabilities like deepfake video and voice calls of executives to redirect an invoice or gain access to sensitive data. Sources like SlashNext report that phishing attacks have increased a whopping 4,151% since the advent of ChatGPT back in November of 2022. And that just shows how AI has had a huge impact on how social engineers execute at scale. This year, we were especially interested in the nuance of how AI was being used to execute these attacks, so we leveraged Hoxhunt's extensive reporting network and AI-powered analysis to gather some insights. As you can see from the numbers here, AI-powered mass phishing campaigns have not yet entirely disrupted the cybercrime ecosystem. Hoxhunt analyzed over 386,000 malicious phishing emails that landed in employee inboxes during 2024 to see how many were written by AI. And including emails that were uncertain, we found that only 0.7 to 4.7% of phishing emails that bypassed filters and reported by users were written by AI. And so that's probably a little bit less than what you were thinking it would be. For some people, you might have thought it was well above that, maybe double or triple that. But mostly what we're seeing is that there has not been a massive disruption to the landscape at this point. And the only other number that's out there as far as how many phishing emails are crafted by AI that I've seen was by Mimecast. They put the number at about 12%, but it's unclear, and it's a little bit more likely that includes all phishing emails being caught at the filter level. And that number might be a bit different for the phishing emails that pass the filter level. And another caveat on the analysis is that this is a constantly developing field. The way that these analysis tools are developing, they're developing alongside the attacks themselves that are developing. So pattern analysis can change with the threat landscape and with the technology itself. It's improving. So this is the best estimate that we are capable of providing, but it might not be a perfect calculus. But for now, it appears that the cheap, well-established phishing kits that have long been on the dark web remain most popular. However, as AI continues to develop rapidly, and as AI-powered phishing kits become more popular and accessible, this trend could change drastically by as early as next month, next year. We'll see. So here's an example of how easy it is for social engineers to generate convincing attacks using nothing but the free version of ChatGPT. While the copy is perhaps generic, it allows cybercriminals to let AI do the heavy lifting, speeding up the process while reducing errors and supporting multiple languages to increase their reach. With a little more info, you can really start to target in a convincing manner. Seen here is an example of a completely AI-generated spear phishing attack on a specific individual, referencing info about their department and leveraging the relationship with their boss to get them to slip up and click. Now, these targeted spearfish used to be manually crafted in sophisticated attacks. But James, I think now is a good time to bring up the fact that we do have some breaking news, some hot off the press research that we'll be releasing in the next few days that indicates that times they are a-changing. We've been tracking the capacity of AI to create phishing emails since 2023 in published studies. It used to be significantly inferior to elite human red teams in getting people to click on a malicious link, but that's changed as of March 2025. We created an AI agent that we call Joker, which surpassed elite red team's effectiveness for the first time in March of 2025, and is significantly better. This is proof positive that a non-nation state-backed team can create AI agents that are even more effective than the best of the best red teamers. It's another milestone on the journey we're all on with regards to Black Hat generative AI. And James, I did want to bring you in just a moment. What do you think of the significance of this finding by the research team at Hoxhunt about this Joker AI agent and its effectiveness?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly significant, and I think it represents almost a paradigm shift. It makes me think immediately of the Roger Bannister effect, which is an effect that was observed in elite athletes, where once Roger Bannister broke a world record in the 50s, it soon followed that everyone else was able to break this record, which was previously thought impossible. And so now that we've broken this ceiling, if people aren't already able to do this with their own AI agents, it will quickly follow, and this will quickly become the standard and the norm.
It certainly looks that way. So other AI-based phishing attacks utilize deepfake technology to manipulate digital media and create highly realistic but entirely fabricated videos or audio recordings. These deepfakes swap faces, mimic voices, or even create entirely new and convincing content from thin air. In the hands of cybercriminals, this content can be used for malicious activities like scams, misinformation, and impersonation. When it comes to protecting your organization, understanding how deepfake technology works is helpful for developing effective defenses. Encoder-decoder architecture is something we're going to talk about now. The process starts with the encoder, which is a neural network that compresses the input data, such as a face image, into a smaller, more manageable representation known as a latent space. This compressed representation contains the most critical features of the face, such as its shape, structure, and texture, without the original high-dimensional details. The latent space is a lower dimensional representation of the input data, capturing essential features like facial expressions, angles, and lighting compressed form. This space is crucial because it allows the model to efficiently manipulate and transform these features to generate new outputs. After encoding, the decoder takes the latent space representation and reconstructs it into a full image. For deepfakes, the decoder is trained to take the latent representation of one face and generate the face of another person, often swapping features between the two. Let's go through a couple examples of deepfake scams. Several widely known attacks date back to as early as 2019 and 2020, like this voice impersonation scam on an unsuspecting employee. The cybercriminal used deepfake technology to create fake audio of the German CEO instructing an employee on the phone to transfer money to one of their suppliers. Thinking it was really the CEO, the employee complied with the request and sent $243,000 directly into the hands of the hacker. In another scam, a cybercriminal created a convincing deepfake video of Elon Musk based off of a previous interview. The video made it appear that the executive was backing a new investment opportunity, and this led investors in investing, with air quotes, millions of dollars after going viral on social media before it was called out as a scam. These attacks are becoming more and more prevalent. Some experts predict that deepfakes and AI will change the landscape of social engineering forever, eventually surpassing all other types of phishing attacks. At some point, AI-generated campaigns will get so good and convincing, while simultaneously being so fast and cheap to produce, that it will become the primary attack method. Therefore, it's really only a matter of time until someone from your organization becomes a target of a highly sophisticated attack such as this. So what's the security leader to do? How loud is the alarm bell ringing? How much time and resources should CISOs and other leaders start to spend to mitigate the threat of AI cyber attacks? I'd like to hand it over to James to answer these questions, as he's on the front lines of analyzing AI-generated attacks. James, what do security leaders need to know?
Yeah, thank you, Elliot. For starters, I think it's important to be aware of exactly how cybercriminals are actually using deepfake technologies for these sorts of scams, as there are several different techniques. And you already highlighted some of the most prominent techniques, such as voice impersonation for fraudulent transactions. Attackers use deepfake audio to mimic the voices of CEOs or other senior executives in order to trick employees into authorizing large wire transfers or even sharing sensitive information. And also highlighted earlier was the video manipulation for disinformation campaigns. Just like the Elon campaign, attackers can create deepfake videos to impersonate business leaders or public figures or even officials and spread false information or discredit individuals or companies. These videos can be distributed on social media or even directly to stakeholders, and they can succeed based on the threat of reputational damage there. And deepfakes can also be used for fake endorsements and identity theft, where fake videos can be used to imitate an endorsement from, say, a celebrity or an industry leader, tricking businesses or customers into believing the legitimacy of a product or a service. And it's important to remember as well that cybercriminals may also utilize deepfakes to enhance their email-based attacks, like spear phishing. So pairing a piece of deepfake audio with a message or a video that appears to come from a trusted source within the organization can make a phishing attempt much more convincing and increase the likelihood of a successful breach. So it's also good to keep in mind all of the clues for spotting deepfake content. And whilst these attacks are getting far more sophisticated than your average phishing attempt, there are still some giveaways that employees should be aware of. So first of all, let's start with the obvious of checking for inconsistencies. And while it is still possible to detect some unnatural voice intonations or even movements on video, this is quickly becoming more and more difficult to rely upon. And soon it'll be pretty much impossible as AI powers deepfakes and this technology increases and perfects itself. So that's why you should rely on other knowledge-based methods like scrutinizing unexpected requests. So you should always be skeptical of unexpected or unusual requests, especially those involving financial transactions, sharing sensitive information, or even urgent actions. Deepfake scams often rely on creating these sorts of senses of urgency to bypass normal scrutiny and really try and manipulate you into doing things that you wouldn't normally do. Next, you should always cross-check information or requests with known and trusted sources. For instance, if you receive a video or audio message from a colleague, consider calling them directly or messaging them directly through a previously used channel in order to confirm legitimacy. Just taking 5 minutes to check can often save you a massive headache down the line. And lastly, it's always important just to listen to your gut. Most times, if something feels off about communication, it probably is. So it's always really, really good to encourage employees to trust their instincts and report on any suspicious content to their IT or security teams immediately. So beyond spotting deepfake content, you might be wondering what else you can do to start educating your employees about AI-generated attacks. And it's here that I'd love to highlight a few best practices that we suggest at Hoxhunt for training your employees about this emerging and imminent threat. So just to be clear, we at Hoxhunt want to stress that it is essential that you start training your employees about AI cyber attack scans. These attacks are already happening, as we've seen through the examples that Elliot gave, so you want to get ahead of them as soon as possible. And as with any other type of phishing attack, whatever tech or filters you do have in place, some attacks will still make it to your employees, which makes them your last line of defense. So let's take a look at what security teams can do. One thing you can do is raise awareness of these types of attacks. AI-generated cyber attacks pose a challenge because many employees may not be familiar with content produced by AI or even how to spot it. So as a first step, just knowing that it exists and that AI-generated scams exist is a great place to start, and that they need to understand that this type of content can also be highly convincing. Training packages, like those offered by Hoxhunt, can be a great first step. Our out-of-the-box deepfake training consists of modules like the ones you see on screen. The first is just a simple, practical guide to deepfakes based entirely on actions that employees can actually take. Then we have a real-life case study of an attack that almost succeeded. And then we also do have a module that shows an actual audio deepfake where we've cloned a person's voice and we ask your users to try and tell the difference. For instance, here's a clone of Hoxhunt's very own CTO, Peter Arvist, just as an example for you.
What I am today going to talk about is about using large language models, ChatGPT, in context of social engineering. What I'm today going to talk about is about using large language models, ChatGPT, in context of social engineering.
Now, that would have certainly fooled me. And I don't know about you, Elliot, but that sounds exactly the same as Bruno.
Exactly the same.
Yeah. But it doesn't stop there. We can help you take your training a step further and even produce custom deepfakes for you and clone the voice of one of your employees or executives. Simulating these kinds of attacks will give employees a feel for what this sort of faked digital content looks like in the wild. And so by simulating these attacks, we're able to help build these patterns where there's no real dead giveaways. And so without simulating attacks, it's often hard to know if your security awareness training is actually working. And you need simulations to test if they'll catch convincing real-life attacks. And Elliot, earlier you mentioned the Joker agent that we have here at Hoxhunt. Well, this agent is exactly the type of good news you were referring to, where we're using AI for good here at Hoxhunt. And recently, we released our spear phishing agent into general availability. This agent uses generative AI to create hyper-personalized simulations on the fly that are uniquely tailored to each employee. Social engineers are increasingly leveraging powerful AI models to generate spear phishing messages at scale. And the spear phishing agent leverages the same techniques as these advanced attacks in order to prepare your workforce to recognize and report AI-generated attacks. and it acts as an extension of Hoxhunt's adaptive phishing training. This feature is now available at no additional cost to all Hoxhunt customers, so that's some great news as well. And finally, it's always really important just to build a security-first culture. Fostering a culture of skepticism towards unusual communications is important. You should encourage this through your security awareness training and communications to empower them as a first line of defense.
Thanks so much for that, James. Very, very important information you've put out there. And just one thought and one personal experience kind of came up in my mind as you were talking today. And that comes back to culture and about developing those instincts to have that spider sense tingle when you think that something's a little bit off. And for me, that happened a bit recently when I had some kind of I'll make a long story short. There was some kind of an attack happening that I was somehow a little bit, my computer was triggering some endpoint detection things with my IT security director who called me. And as we're going through this stuff, it was nothing that I had actually done wrong, but we had to get to the bottom of what was happening. And at one point he said, okay, now I need your approval to give me complete access and control over your computer. And right then I thought, oh my gosh, what if this isn't him? What if this is a North Korean hacker? I mean, I could open up a portal basically to digital hell if I were to somehow do the wrong thing here. And so what I did, even though he didn't really give me a bad feeling, he does have a very kind of a pronounced way of speaking, and just his speech is kind of special to him, but I still asked him some personal questions. And we have a good relationship. So he was able to answer those questions, and they were things that no hacker could possibly know. They weren't available through open source intelligence. But the reason I want to bring that up is that having a security culture gives you the psychological safety to do something like that, to not feel like you're being judged by your cybersecurity leader, whoever that is, your IT director, your CISO, your director of cybersecurity, whatever the title is. But when you're talking to them, you feel that safety to get to the bottom of the issue so that they're your doctor and not your judge. And that's what you want to strive for as a company. And you also, part of cybersecurity culture, want to have that instinct where you do know that you should be always wary of anything that happens online, any kind of communication online that happens. You should understand that anyone could be anyone, anywhere. So nowadays, we're really getting to the point where you kind of have to deal with any kind of communication, whether it's video, whether it's phone, whether it's email, whether it's chat. You need to deal with it with the assumption that it could potentially be an attacker. So I just thought I'd share that really quick.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's everything you mentioned there is super important. It's really important to have a culture where people feel the safety and the ability just to pause and just to think. And even like you did with our IT security director, it's important just to ask questions, ask and just verify based on knowledge, and even sometimes just based on ritual that you might have with certain customers, like just even whether or not they've skipped asking about your dog, which is what they usually do. Just these sorts of red flags that you can then move forward to verify with more.
Yeah, that's a great point, because we can't always assume that people are going to know who it is they're talking with, or know that they have some kind of a personal relationship with their cybersecurity team, with the SOC team. And so if you do go through those basic social rituals, that's a really interesting idea there. There was a case recently where a CEO of a company, was pinged through his Teams chat to get on a webinar right away. And he did. And this was supposed to be I think either his board or the venture company who had invested in them. It might have actually been some venture capitalists who said they were going to invest with him. But anyhow, one thing led to another, and he had kind of a suspicion about these people, if they were who they said they were. And then they started saying that there was a problem with their Zoom. They needed him to download this new software for a better video conferencing technology. And then he realized that he was actually talking to some North Korean hackers. So this stuff is out there. It's happening all the time. So it doesn't hurt to be a little careful. You don't need to be a jerk about it, but it's okay to trust and verify. Okay, so to recap today's presentation, AI and deepfake technology is getting better and better at a rapid rate. What were once novel attacks are becoming more and more commonplace. You should start training yourself and your employees now. The best way to prepare them for AI cyber attacks is to raise awareness of them and simulate them. Right out of the box, Hoxhunt can help you run dedicated security awareness training about these attacks and deliver AI-generated phishing simulations to your employees to ensure they're ready when a real attack comes their way. So those are the closing thoughts on my end. James, do you have any closing thoughts?
Just that this has been a great discussion, as always, and I'd like to leave off with the fact that AI can be used for both evil and for good. And whilst we're seeing a uptick in people using it for evil, we're also seeing people using it for good, and it can be a powerful tool for that.
That's a great point. So if you do have any questions, and if we haven't answered them already in the chat, please feel free to ask those questions. And thank you so much for coming. Big thank you to James for joining us today to share your expertise about AI-generated cyber attacks. I know you're looking at this very closely with an elite team of researchers, analysts. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us at hoxhunt.com. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone.
As Chief Information Security Officer, I get paid to protect my company against cyber attacks. It's actually pretty cool. But it's getting harder, which is less cool. And those automated awareness programs, it's not helpful. They send like 4 generic phishing emails that most employees ignore.
Ah, hello there.
And when somebody actually clicks, they get forced into embarrassing training programs that feel more like a punishment. Meanwhile, cyber criminals are getting more sophisticated with personalized attacks that pick off my employees like sitting ducks.
Not again.
Especially Bob. So, I tried Hoxhunt. Hoxhunt goes beyond cybersecurity awareness and actually changes behavior, rewarding good clicks and coaching away the bad. Hoxhunt's adaptive learning model trains each employee based on their role, background, and skill level, so simulations feel like real-world attacks. If they fail a simulation, they get a quick training that's actually sort of fun. And when they spot an attack, they get positive reinforcement that locks in the behavior chain. Whenever an employee suspects an email might be a scam, Hoxhunt will tell them instantly, providing a dopamine rush that gets your people to click, learn, and protect your company. Here's the magic part. Hoxhunt's adaptive model gets better with every threat reported across the Hoxhunt network, creating a network effect. With millions of people working together to build a human threat detection engine that's more powerful than any platform or process could ever be. Which means these days, the possibilities are endless.